Hello and welcome to another conversation to transform birth. I am so excited for today's conversation. We're going to be talking about birth as we always do, but it's a little bit different. Today, I'm not going to be speaking about birthing a baby. We're going to be talking about birthing your dreams, birthing the life that you imagine for yourself, bringing to fruition the desires, all those things that you hold, close to your heart, those things that you know are uniquely yours. We're going to talk about how do you bring them to form. And so today's guest is one of my dearest friends and also one of the most conscious creators that I know. I'd like to introduce you all to Kathleen Frazier. Hi, Kathleen.
Hello, Sheila. I'm so happy to be here. Really thrilled.
So happy you're here. Can I brag about you for a minute and all that you've created?
Well, okay.
Yeah. So I've known Kathleen for over, 17 years now, because I've known you since my boy was just a little one. And I have witnessed you birth multiple careers. I have witnessed you birth an award-winning memoir. I have witnessed your growth and evolution as like a sleep activist and the work that you're doing now as a blogger for Psychology Today. I have witnessed you call in a fully paid college education for your daughter. I have witnessed you call in a fully paid college master's degree for yourself. You're a recent graduate of Columbia's Narrative Medicine program. And so there's so much more, like vacations and clothes and all kinds of things. But I see you as one of the most prolific and conscious creators that I know on the planet. And so that's why I'm really, really excited to have this conversation with you today about how do you birth your dreams?
I'm excited to have this conversation with you too, because for many reasons, and one of them being that you are so key in helping me to birth my dreams, our friendship and our relationship all these years.
Yeah, we've definitely learned so much from each other, and I've learned so much from you as well. And so I guess where to begin, because there's so much to talk about. I guess the place to begin is like, how do you, like, you get this idea, and I've seen you do this so many times, like you get this idea, you're like, I think I want to do fill in the blank, like, and then I witness you actually create that against I want to say against all odds, but it's not really against all odds, against like whatever the reality, world culture, the limitations, the obstacles that we might perceive. I've witnessed you overcome all of those things, or even overcome, I feel like is the wrong word, because it's never really an obstacle to you. Like, so how do you do that? Can you talk us through a little bit about your process from when you get a desire and how you bring it into creation?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I have to say that I had a mom who she really believed in me. Not everyone in my family did, and I come from some trauma, family trauma, as many of us do, being human. But my mom really believed in me, and that was such a foundation to be, diving from. I think that if there's just one person even in our lives, whether it's a teacher or someone who in those formative years believes in us, it can lay the groundwork for forming relationships where other folks believe in us and believing in other folks, and supporting each other. Yeah, I mean, especially in this society, which can be not supportive by tradition. And so I guess I guess I'm going to think of a specific example, because I think that'll be easier for me to hone in on. Say this, realizing that my daughter was getting to be college age or getting into high school, and we hadn't been able to save for her for tuition. And we live in Washington Heights, and I knew that they pay half of any tuition anywhere. And I knew there was a 4-year waiting period. So I knew I needed to get on it. I started to apply for jobs, and it was hard. The part that's hard at the beginning is that I can be kicking and screaming against the very thing that I'm finding to fulfill my desire. So in other words, I'm a working actor for many years, vested in SAG, worked on many commercials, plays, soap opera, member of the Actors Studio. And so this change, this life change would mean maybe putting that on the shelf for a bit or releasing it, whatever. So that was hard for me. So the key is finding the support through those, as you would say, contractions, like everybody wants the expansion, but nobody wants the contraction. So I think that like the tool that we use of spring cleaning, and you can explain what that is in a bit, is really key for releasing charge and learning to feel uncomfortable with calling in the desire and moving through those contractions, which are not always as comfortable as the expansion, if that makes sense. So, but the thing that is that once that we start to have experience with that, then we get used to feeling uncomfortable through those times, and amazing things can happen as we expand. This choice to work in that situation has led me to so many amazing opportunities, including, as you said, my daughter has no debt. She's now graduated from college, no college debt at all. And we have no debt. She had half tuition from scholarships, and the other half was from my job. And then this whole other opportunity of my education, which I never dreamed of or even knew what narrative medicine was. So that's one example. Is that specific enough?
That was so good. And I want to like highlight a few things just so people can really start to pick it apart, because you said some things that were really, really important. So the first thing that you talked about was support and having somebody that believes in you. The next thing you talked about was the expansions and contractions, how like tools to move through the contractions into the expansions. And the reason there was one other thing, which is slipping my mind at the moment, but the reason I want to highlight these things is because these are part of like the birthing process. When I teach about ecstatic birth, there are certain things that are really essential. And, one of them is, having someone that can really stand for you, right? Because when you're going somewhere that you may not have been before, having that support is huge. Like having a doula at labor, having someone that says to you, hey, you're doing great, like allows you to surrender more into the process, as opposed to feeling like, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? So that's huge. And then this piece about contractions, right? Which I know that you've really leaned into that a lot, and you love to talk about, nobody wants the contractions, but everybody wants the expansions. But as we talk about all the time, it's like contractions it's like that work that you have to do to get to the next expansion. So what's really cool about everything that you're sharing right now is that, I really believe that the way we create life on the planet, the way we birth our children is there's so much wisdom there for how we create anything on the planet. And that to really lean into like the gifts of ecstatic birth, which I've seen so many of my birthing moms do well into motherhood, to be able to consciously lean into those gifts, creates that same level of like, this is my path, this is my unique way. As when you're in the birthing room and you're listening to every sensation in your body and following the truth of your body to birth your baby in pleasure. So I loved everything you shared, and thank you so much for that. And I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit more. I know there's a lot of material about like manifestation, and I don't know that it's necessarily different from birthing your dreams or desires, but I'm curious, like in your own mind, like how do you think about it when you're bringing something to form? Do you, to me, like the term manifestation feels a little like, and you call it in, and there is an element of that, but in birthing, there's like a grit to it too. So I'm curious what your experience has been when you're creating your dreams and desires.
That's a great question. Yeah, some of these terms, it's interesting for me. Our paradigm, or the paradigm that's placed upon us in this society, is one of individualism, and so I want to be ever mindful of not to get into that, pulling myself up by my bootstraps, because it implies that everybody has bootstraps, let alone boots, or vice versa. And I'm thinking of, I'm thinking of folks of color. I'm thinking of folks who are differently abled. I'm thinking of trans folks. I'm thinking of all kinds of folks who are not heteronormative. And I'm thinking of my own, an example is, I'm starting to lean into unpacking my own learned racism and applying for a fellowship that has to do with anti-racism work. So how do I manifest that? It's the same with everything, basically. It's this sense of the good, the bad, and the ugly, the feelings that come up, that always come up. I mean, I remember when my book was about to come out, and I was talking to some other folks who have had books, women who have had books come out. And I said, I'm having these feelings like something bad is going to happen to myself or to my family. And they said, yeah, because that's in our DNA to not speak up as women, because we have that experience in our history of women being, persecuted and physically, hurt, harmed, their families harmed, when they do speak up against or out or for or whatever. So I think once again, it comes back to support. It comes back to leaning into folks who are saying, yes, you can do this, and sharing it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, like that. Hannah, my daughter, who's 23, and I just watched Doubt last night, the film, and what a story of a woman who's standing up against a system. It was really wonderful to watch it again, after, having not seen it for some years. Is that helpful at all, what I said there?
Yeah, so helpful. So helpful. And I love what you were sharing about yes to it all, right? Like, yes to the bad, the ugly, yes to the intense emotions, yes to programming that we may have within us that we've inherited from our world culture that may not be serving us in the moment. And so I'm wondering, like, when you have those moments of, like something bad is going to happen to me, or, the work that you do is pretty revolutionary. I know we haven't touched on it that much, but, talking about like your sleep advocacy work too, that's similar to what I'm doing in the birth world, which is like trying to transform an entire culture, the way we relate to a specific piece of it. And that can feel so heavy. And so when you are hit with those contractive moments, when you are hit with the heaviness, when you are hit with the feeling of, something bad's going to happen to me, or I can't do this anymore, how do you support yourself through that?
It's just really amazing. I didn't expect to be moved to tears in this, but I feel them coming. And that's the answer. The answer is to have all my feelings and to be with people who are yes to that. I remember being in like a intuitive development class, and I started crying, doing a one-on-one work with a partner, and it was an older gentleman, and he became very upset, that I was crying. And the woman who was leading it, the teacher, she looked at him and she said, "Don't worry about that. That's just her body catching up." And I thought, yes, that's what's happening. It's not just catching up, it's just expressing itself, and in this beautiful water medicine, as I like to say. So to be to find places where I can be, all of who I am, and release that. Another thing that's coming up for me is there's a book by Florence Scovel Shinn called The Game of Life for Women and How to Play It, something like that. She wrote it in the 1920s, maybe. I think she was a Christian Scientist. So she has a lot of affirmations in there and a lot of different stories. And I, like with everything, I believe, take what you like and leave the rest. But there's one affirmation in there that really helps me a lot as someone who comes from trauma, childhood trauma and violence. And that is, like I'll have a violent thought, like we were just saying, like something good is happening, and I'll think something bad is going to happen to my kid as they're leaving the house, or like something will just like come into my mind like that. Oh no, this is, I'm going to fall or something, you know, or if I do fall or have an accident or something human, you know, my mind will be like, oh, the violence will be right there. Like I'm co-creating this, this is happening. I'm going to, you know, and it can spiral. So I have an affirmation that I say, which is, I cast this burden of, sometimes it's violence, the word that I use, or worry, or whatever it is. I cast this burden of violence. And a lot of times it is the word violence. I cast this burden of violence on the goddess within, and I go free. And it's so helpful for me, because it's like, okay, I don't want to get caught up in either the paradigm that I came from, which was a restrictive, punishing God, or the paradigm of that can be that is a capitalistic paradigm and can be quite pervasive now, which is oh, I'm creating this like negative thing. I'm calling something negative in, and that's not my sense of spirit or life, or you know, like it's about finding myself right. And that doesn't mean not taking responsibility for myself. It means the exact opposite of taking responsibility for myself, and not just of myself, but of each other, you know, because when we start to practice self-love in this way, self-pleasure in this way, ecstatic birth of whatever in this way, it flows out, and it's community oriented. It's not individualistic. It's not self-centered. It's not selfish. It's the exact opposite.
A lot. And you know what I was feeling while you were speaking was that violence. We talk a lot in Ecstatic Birth about like what things do to your body, like the contractive, those fearful thoughts, those violent thoughts, like literally contract your body. They constrict your blood flow, they constrict your energy flow. And I could feel that. And when you shared your mantra, there was this feeling of like, like I can relax and my energy can flow. And that was similar to when you were talking about like tears coming up, right? So this like saying yes to whatever is allows like your energy to flow, allows you to react and be in communion with what is true for you in the moment. Whereas showing up the way you're supposed to show up, or by an outer standard, it imposes that constriction on your body because you're going against perhaps what you are actually feeling.
That's right. Yeah. And it's a system. The other is a system that is, you know, hopefully being dismantled. And, you know, like that. So, yeah, we're moving in that direction. So, yeah.
I love your revolutionary nature. And I know there are a lot of people that are watching now and also watching in the future that are also trying to dismantle systems and create a better reality for themselves, for their loved ones, for the planet. And I'm curious if you have any thoughts you would want to share with them as they are doing their sacred work in their unique way.
Yeah, I would say never be afraid to continue to grow. And I shared with Sheila, I call Sheila my Sheila, just this morning about making amends to somebody where I made a mistake and didn't express my appreciation in a timely fashion for something they did for me. And that said, they kind of reacted in a fierce way that was kind of mean-spirited in an email. And I thought, you know, first I just let it move through me. And then I thought, I'd shared about it with my family, and I said, I think I really do owe this person an amends, you know. They were like, don't answer that. And I was like, no, you know, like this. And then I did, and just really gushed at them and said, I'm sorry, that I'm really sorry. I hope you can forgive me, you know, for not, of course, I appreciated this, blah, blah, blah. And then let them know a little bit of what was going on with me, and not by way of excuse, but just, you know, to, by way of, you know, letting them know what's going on here, and hope that they can be easy with their old imperfect friend, you know. So I feel like I don't even know what the question was or how I got there.
I love what you're saying, but like, what advice would you have for people that are trying to
Yes.
and transform systems?
Yeah. Okay. So to start from where you are, instead of starting from where you think you should be, and to always move from what's happening. And that's why I gave that example. Yeah, like, and to that end, I'll share a little bit about my sleep activism so folks can know, because it's kind of an abstract idea, a new idea. I'm on the vanguard of recovery from sleep and trauma. So I'm a sleep activist advocating for healthy sleep as a basic human right, having come from intergenerational trauma and intergenerational sleep disorders, insomnia. My dad was a World War II vet and also survived violent alcoholism in his family. And he had terrible insomnia his whole life. My mom had terrible night terrors and sleepwalking, was also a child of an alcoholic, and they both survived the Great Depression. And I had sleepwalking and night terrors from when I was an adolescent until I was 30, and then came into recovery around them. And I guess what I can say is that I was blessed and privileged to be able to unpack what was happening, including self-medicating what was happening. So I would suggest that if you really want to make a change, the old adage of starting with yourself is key, because we have to, I mean, I only can speak for myself. I was never an actor who could be very unwell and be acting and successful that way. I had to be healthy. And that's me, you know. So I was thinking about it earlier, like there's a saying that some friends of mine and I have: not through any virtue of my own did I find health. The circumstances drove me to the willingness, you know, to do these things, and they keep me on that path. Circumstances of these different physical and emotional experiences. So yeah, just following those, you know, I started writing about my experiences towards health, but did not really seriously give into publishing until, sadly, in 2010, there was the death of a young man reported in the New York Times, Tobias Wong, an art designer, who died in the throes of a sleepwalking and night terror episode that was misconstrued as suicide, you know. And I thought to myself, what am I doing? You know, I cannot be quiet any longer, you know, like I have to speak out. So I would encourage people to get with other people who are brave, and, you know, it's small actions, and just keep moving towards that. And I love that adage, take an action, take a nap. I don't know if that's that's very pleasurable.
To me, that feels very in line with expansion contraction, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's an integration that comes after a big move, and
Yeah,
I think you're so inspiring in the way that you know, you have taken something that was really heavy and difficult and took care of yourself so that you could move through it, and now you're helping others to move through it in their way. And that's a place of, you know, a lot of people are ashamed of like their dark spots, and I think your story is just such a beautiful illustration of how like your dark spots can really be the place of like your greatest wounding. If you take the time to really start with where you're at, as you say, and support yourself and your body, that your greatest wounding can actually be the source of your greatest medicine for the planet.
yes. And I think this is key and intricately connected with birth, whether it's birthing a baby or birthing another art form. And why I wore this necklace today, which I don't know if you can see it. It's
beautiful.
Yeah. And it reminds me of Leonard Cohen's, a quote from one of his songs called Anthem. And the quote is, "Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in."
I love that quote. I love him. I love you, Queen
Love
Kathleen
you.
Frazier. Thank you so much
You're
for
so welcome.
and sharing your wisdom. And would you let people know where they can find you if they want to contact you for any reason?
Yes. Um, you can reach me at my email, which is infokathleenfrazier@gmail.com. That's infokathleenfrazier@gmail.com. And I'm on Facebook, Kathleen Frazier. I'm on Twitter. I think it's Frazier Writes, but if you put my name in there, I think it should come up. And you have my Instagram that you're going to put up too. I don't have that off the top of my head, but
I'll put all the links here underneath
oh, thanks.
about anything that we talked about or something completely different can do that, because you are definitely a woman that has a lot to offer the world, and I'm so grateful for having you come and share that. And I know that you have inspired so many with your story. Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you for all your love and support, which is totally testament to your work, is my manifestations of my visions. Love you, She.
Love you.